Hari Om. Surasura sevita pada pankaja Kare virajat kamaniya pustaka Virinchi patni kamalasanasthita Saraswati nrityatu vachi me sada. I congratulate the Sanskrit Department of Mumbai University for having completed 60 years and celebrating the Diamond Jubilee. And I congratulate especially the head of the Sanskrit Department and her entire team of Diamond Jubilee celebrations for arranging a 60 lecture series on account of this Diamond Jubilee. And I am so privileged to give the first ever lecture in this Diamond Jubilee lecture series. Hari Om to all. As advised, I have been talking about IKS, Indian Knowledge Systems, in the light of NEP. NEP, National Education Policy 2020. Now, NEP 2020 is a Kasturi Rangan Commission, as we say, Kasturi Rangan of ISRO, and a 12-member committee was formed to draft a report and submit it to the Indian government, and that they did in May 2019. Okay, and first time ever, the citizen of India had registered their opinions also about it. I had also registered. So I have a squirrel's share, I can say. And July 2020, it was accepted by Ministry of Education. Karnataka government was the first to implement it from 2021. And now I hear that Maharashtra government is implementing from 2023. So this is the background of NEP. It has stirred many notions of education, the entire education system, and has inspired many institutions. And it has come as a timely renaissance of the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, that is Indian knowledge systems. Now, NEP has a threefold vision behind the entire process of this education policy. This is basically the Indian ethos. We must have the Indian ethos, which will directly contribute for the transformation of India, that is Bharat. Okay, and sustainability and equitable and vibrant knowledge system, vibrant knowledge, the society of Bharat with the vibrant knowledge, that is what is aimed at in especially the higher education system. The second point is respect towards the fundamental duties and constitutional values. So this is bonding with one's own country and a conscious awareness of one's roles and responsibilities in changing the world. If you have to change the world, you have to change yourself first. So the change begins at home. At charity begins at home, change also begins from our own self. And the third important thing as a vision of NEP is reflection on being a global citizen, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So that is the overarching vision, we are all one. Yatra Vishwam Bhavati Ekanidam. And therefore, to instill that deep-rooted pride in being Indian first, not only by birth, but by thought, by spirit, by intellect, and by our actions, our karma, and then develop the knowledge skills, inculcate the values, and imbibe the disciplinary methods, and support the entire humanity along with self-development. So that is the threefold vision of NEP. Now the key changes which are envisioned by NEP are interdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity, antarashakhiya vidyadhyayanam, then flexibility to choose a language medium. It could be English, it could be Sanskrit, it could be regional language in all the different states, and equity and opportunity, and especially the PG programs, the PhD programs, there are radical changes, especially in the PG program. There are so many changes. I am not going into the depth of all that. We are concentrating more on the IKS, Indian Knowledge Systems, as envisioned by NEP. And why NEP wants all the institutions. Now you have seen that all IIMs and IITs have opened up a center for Indian knowledge systems. So what are the 4 major pillars in that? That we'll see one after the other, and that completes the talk. Okay. So the 4 main points in NEP are, the first and the foremost, as I stated, as was the vision of NEP, it is Bharatiya Drishti, Indian perspective in whatever you do. So we should not be enslaved by what the West teaches and preaches and wants us to do. We should have our own government, our own educational policy, and our own perspective in designing the curricula, the syllabi, and everything. So commercializing education was never thought of by Indians. If you see the ancient Gurukula systems, the Acharya Parampara, the Guru Parampara, so it is, it was never, commercial in the sense that there was no fees. There were no fees, for the students. At the end of their education, after the Samavartana and the Avabhrita Snana only, the student was supposed to give Guru Dakshina. Okay. Of course, now I don't advise that we should follow this method. It is not viable. But why I am telling this? Because that entirely changes the vision. Education is for dissemination. Whatever I have to disseminate. Otherwise, it will die with me. And if you feel it is worth enough, then you should be coming forward and asking, what do I give you as Guru Dakshina? Right? So that is the spirit. Till then, the Guru and the Shishya will learn together without hating each other. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvi Nau Adhitamastu. Whatever both of us learn, let that shine forth. Right? And Ma Vidvishavahai. Now we see so many acharyas and their teachers, their shishyas hating each other, vying with each other, competing with each other, and having jealousy for each other. That is not a true Indian picture. That is not a Bharatiya Drishti. So the IKS way is eternal. It is sustainable. The commerciality or the commercialism is not going to be sustainable at all. And in this education system, in that Bharatiya Drishti, aesthetics is also very, very important. Beauty and grace to education, that is IKS perspective. And what do we mean thereby? This is basically the Trisutri of Bharata's ethos. It is Satya, Shiva, and Sundara, these 3 principles. And therefore, the Dharma and the Purushartha concepts of IKS and all the ancient Gurukula Parampara, as the Upanishads would talk about it, Atmavare, Drashtavyaha, Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyaha, etc. You have to stay in Gurukula, serve there, bring water, wash the clothes of Guru, and do whatever, collect samidha for the yajna, and do whatever Guru tells you. So that seva attitude, servitude, that brings in really vinaya. Vidya vinayena shobhate. So that servitude is also now a part, very much part and parcel of NEP. That really belongs to the Indian knowledge system or Bharatiya Drishti. When we think of aesthetics, I can't just forget Tagore's concept of aesthetics in education. The very concept of Shantiniketan which he brought out is a replica in a way of the ancient Indian Gurukula system. And then he had Sriniketana, which was reforming the village communities, so to say, and Vishwabharati, which is an international university. So this, when the student comes to the campus, be it a school campus or a college campus or the university campus, it has to be, it is like a swarga for him. So paradise or swarga is not just imaginary, it is not a fancy, but it can be created here on this planet by the education institutions. And therefore this aesthetics in education is very great. We can have green campuses, we can have beautiful campuses, decorate benches, hangout area, make hangout areas for the students, some lata mandapa, the groves and all that, So when we thought of Sanskrit Bhavan in Mumbai University campus, I had visualized similar thing. I had visualized the lata mandapa as well, okay. So the campus should be vibrant and empathetic, and this would remind us of Sandipani Gurukula, where Krishna, Sudama and so many others studied. So Bharatiya Drishti is the first and the foremost point. The second main point in NEP is multidisciplinarity or interdisciplinarity in education. Now the future is for the multidisciplinary studies and not only unidimensional studies, The science and humanity, the science and spirituality have to go hand in hand. As Gurudev Chinmayananda used to say, why he created this Chinmaya International Foundation where I am working presently, it is a bridge between the past and the present, east and the west, science and spirituality, Pandit and public, and tradition and technology. So unless these two meet, so these are poles apart, right? But then they have to come together, and therefore a science student, an engineering student should be able to pursue something like philosophy or psychology or a language. Similarly, a student studying in humanities should be able to choose a subject from the science areas. So that brings in two polar things, the bipolar education so far we have been experiencing, bringing that together and bridging the gap that is envisioned by NEP. And ancient Indian temples, I would say, they are the monuments of this interdisciplinary studies. I am reminding you all of one verse from Vakyapadiya of Bhartrihari where he quotes, Pradnya vivekam labhate bhinnaihi agama darshanaihi. Pradnya, your own intellect, vivekam labhate, it gains the analytical approach, vivekam, what is good, what is bad, the discriminative capacity, that ability your intellect can get by what? Bhinnaihi agama darshanaihi, by the knowledge of various agamas or shastras. And then the second line he says, Kiyadva shakyamunnetum swatarkam anudhavataha. How far you can go, how far you can reach by following your own method, your own shastra, one shastra, how far it can take you. So, bhinnaihi agama darshanaihi, that is very, very necessary. And therefore, multidisciplinarity is not new, right? To Indian education system, it is not new. And as I said, our temples are living monuments for this interdisciplinary studies. Just take an example for, Konark example, the Sun Temple at Konark, built in the 13th century, and it took 12 years to build the whole temple per se, and how it was built and how many sciences and how many things were, imbibed in building of that. There was astronomy. The entire Earth's trajectory and planetary movements were known to the Shilpins or the Sthapatis. Then Shilpa Shastra, obviously, and the intricate carvings inside, the material, the strong material, robust material which has been used, which has sustained so many centuries now, The temple architecture, especially the Vastu Vidya or Sthapatya Vidya of Mandira Nirmana, then building as such, it is Vastu Shastra and civil engineering as well. Then magnetism. Now in the Garbhagriha, in the Sanctum Sanctorium, there is no Vigraha of Surya. But once upon a time there was a Vigraha, and it was not established on a Pitha. It was not established on a Pitha. It was hanging. And how it could hang? On the strength of Chumbakiya Shakti, magnetism. And it is said that Puri, being on the east coast, even the big vessels, the big ships were attracted towards the coast because of that Chumbaka. So very heavy and very strong magnets were used. Is it not force of magnetism? Is it not all, astronomy, then Vastu Shastra, civil engineering, then aesthetics about the Murti, Agama Shastra for the Murti Nirmana, then magnetism, so many things, architecture, engineering, scientific knowledge, and finance, logistics to bring all the Shilpis and all the artists for work, provide for their food, material, logistic. So many things are involved. For 12 years, is it not interdisciplinary, right? Similarly, we have so many examples now. If you take, for example, botany, modern botany, and you talk about the Amarakosha or Vriksha Ayurveda, right? Then there are like so many different types of plants like Vanaspati, which are large trees, then Vriksha, which are smaller trees, then Virudh or herbs, Viruddham, Rohanti, Iti, So they are herbs or creepers, they climb up, they are climbers, right? Or they come down and they are creepers. They are either climbers or creepers. And Oshadhi, which are the medicinal herbs or the grains, because Phalapakanta Sasyaha Oshadhayaha iti Kathyate. And before Jagdish Chandra Bose made a discovery in 20th century that the plants have life, we have references in our ancient texts to that effect. So this Vriksha Ayurveda or the botanical part, this science is related with the Prana Shakti, with the thing that this entire creation has been created by that one Almighty, right? And we are all His products. So for example, in the Shanti Parva it is stated that Sukha Dukkha Yoho Grahanat Chinnasya Cha Virohanat Jivam Pashyami Vrikshanam Achaitanyam Na Vidyate. The Vrikshas are not Achaitana. This comes in Shanti Parva. They grow once they are cut. Even if they are cut, they grow again. Unless there is life, how can they grow? The table which is made up from the wood, if you cut it, it won't grow. But as long as it's a tree, the living tree, you cut the branches and it grows again and again. And a single plant, if you have a small apartment and in your balcony you put a small pot, a plant, it won't grow. You bring another pot with that, another plant, and both together they will talk to each other, they exchange their Sukha Dukkha. It has been experienced. It has been experienced by people. So if there is a single Tulasi plant, it won't grow. There are two plants, both grow in the company of each other. So Sukha Dukkha Yoho Grahanat. Isn't it interesting? And then the capillary action of the plants, and that's why the trees are called Padapa, Padaihi Pibati iti Padapa. That is nothing but the capillary action in science, is it not? So all these things are there. So this was the multidisciplinarity as point number 2. Now the third is you have to have rigor in whatever you do. There has to be, 100% dedication of training, experimenting, exerting, toiling hard, striving hard, making efforts to gain something. So this is research oriented. So where is research? NEP highlights and emphasizes research because rigor is the very soul of research. Okay? So from libraries to laboratories and from theory to practice, that is the journey of research. And for that there are so many stories, like there is a story of Satyakama Jabala, there is a story of Shvetaketu coming in the Upanishad. He completed his education and came back. When he came back, he was like puffed, oh, I have known everything, I am a graduate and this and that. So his father, Aruna, saw him. He is haughty, little bit arrogant. And then he asked him, oh, have you learned everything? He said, yes, you can ask me. I have learned everything. I know everything. And then he says, do you know that one thing by knowing which everything else is known? And he said, oh, I was not taught. This was out of syllabus. That was not in my syllabus, right? It was out of syllabus question. That means there is an experiential learning for that. And then Aruna gives him a crystal of salt, Saindhava Ghana, and asks him to test it from above, from below, from side, from middle, from here, from there. Everywhere it is the same. That is one principle. Then another thing is he asks him to bring a seed, okay, and asks him to break the seed. He breaks the seed. Again, the smaller part, try to break it again, and after disintegration, there comes a state when it can't be further broken into pieces, which could be seen by the naked eye. Okay, now what is there? There is nothing. Where is the seed? There is nothing now. So the same way, from what you don't see, the seed comes in. From the seed, the sprouts come in, and from the sprout, the entire banyan tree also comes into existence. So that which is not comprehensible, that which is agochara, from that Brahman, this entire universe, the cosmology. How, by experimentation, the knowledge is reached to Shvetaketu. And Eka Vijnanena Sarva Vijnanam, for that, Yatha Ghatakupyadayaha, and then you say that Mrittika Ityeva Satyam Vacha Arambhanam Vikaro Namadheyam Mrittiketyeva Satyam. So, you can make different things from the Mrittika, you break it, disintegrate it, ultimately what remains is handful of soil, the grains of the soil, the sikata. And therefore, this is Mrittika Ityeva Satyam. And this comes, 9 times. Navakritvaha Upadeshaha, Abhyasa, doing a thing again and again, hammering it. That is what is done by the Upanishad. And this comes as a gold bangles or, Kataka Kundala Dayaha, Hara Dayaha, etc. But then ultimately it is the gold which you melt it becomes just a lump of gold. Similarly, there is the Nakhanikruntana and so many things made up of Karshnayasa, of iron. What is it ultimately? It is Karshnayasa. The interesting point here, I always used to say in Chandogya, that our ancestors knew what nail cutter is, Nakhanikruntana. They could make a Nakhanikruntana. Is it not, indicative of the knowledge of metallurgy which our ancestors had? We don't read our scriptures with that point of view. Upanishad means it is only Vedanta, it is only Brahma and Atmajnana. But there are so many other things, there is the malleability and ductility of the metal and this and that, all that is included in this, right? So what I mean to say is rigor, and for that rigor, experiences, laboratories, and therefore only library reading is never recommended. You go on the field. Satyakama Jabala was given 100 cows and was asked by his guru, Gautama Haridrumata, that unless they become 1,000, you can't come here. So you learn on your way. That is extramural studies. Bahishala Shikshana, is it not? So this is experiential knowledge which really enriches one. And for that rigor, there are 7 great qualities given by Kautilya in his Arthashastra. They are Shushrusha. Shushrusha is first the desire to listen, desire to learn. Okay? Shushrusha is not seva of the patient. That is the secondary meaning. Shushrusha, shrotum ichha, Shushrusha. But mere ichha, काम नहीं चलेगा. You must do the Shravana. Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. So Shushrusha, then Shravana. Then after Shravana, it is Grahana, accepting. After Grahana, it is Dharana. You have to retain it and not forget it in the next year you go. And earlier, whatever you have done, Kavya Prakasho, that was last year's syllabus. I don't remember anything now, right? So Dharana has to be there. Then Vijnana, knowing through reflection. Then Uha Poha, there are queries and doubts, and then there is a solving of those doubts, etc. Different views, false views, and Uha Tesham Apohaha. And then the last is Tattva Abhinivesha. Firmness and your full truth, full faith in the truth of the knowledge. What is Aptavakya? What is Vedavakya? Your Atala Shraddha, Dridha Vishwasa, Ritasya Drilha Dharunani Santi. So that Drilha Dharunani, that Dridhatva has to be there. That is Tattva Abhinivesha. Okay? And for that you have your Antahkarana Chatushtaya for that. Mana, which is Samshayatmaka, and Samshaya, doubt, is again the first step towards research. Unless you have a doubt, then you can't see here and there. You have to examine the thing from all the sides. If there is no doubt, how will you examine it? So, Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam, Samshayatmakam, Manaha, that is the first. Then Nishchayatmika, Vyavasayatmika, Buddhihi, that is another Antahkarana. Then the Chitta is Anusandhanatmaka. And then the fourth is Ahankara, Abhimanatmaka. So this is, the Antahkarana Chatushtaya. In a way, it is a multitasking avadhana. We had Ashtavadhani and Shatavadhani. Even now we have Shatavadhani and Ashtavadhani people. At a single time, they can take note of so many different things going on, right? So that is the creative ability. That was number 3 in the main points of NEP. And now coming to the 4th and the last one, it is innovative approach. Innovative approach is the 4th one. Innovation can be brought in what? Innovation can be brought in the syllabus, in the curriculum. Innovative can be brought in the pedagogy, the way you teach the same syllabus. For example, teaching Sanskrit, Take for example Sanskrit, we are taking this as a Sanskrit department's Diamond Jubilee, right? So teaching Sanskrit, we started certificate diploma courses for the students. In the past some 30 years now, 30-40 years, the methods have changed a lot. Maybe when it was started initially, it had a structured syllabus. Now also there is a syllabus. Syllabus has to be there because there has to be some framework for teaching. But how you teach it? If right from the first day you start teaching them the Vyakarana, the people will flee away. They will run away, right? So how will you teach? So over the years, I have experienced myself because I was there for last 30-35 years in the Sanskrit department as a student, as a teacher, as a researcher, all 3 capacities. So I have actually witnessed this, how the pedagogy had changed. How, involving the students, making the sessions interactive. In olden times, not the Gurukula, in our modern education system, Macaulayan education system or the British education system, when the teacher is talking, the students have to keep mum. Keep quiet, keep quiet. The student can't even raise hand and ask questions because the teachers get distracted. No interruptions were allowed. But now more and more interactive sessions have started. NEP encourages interaction. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Pariprashna, paritaha prashnan pricheyo chatraha. So unless they ask, their curiosity is not quenched, it is not answered, it is not catered to. By far the teacher is there. If he doesn't cater, he or she doesn't cater to the curiosity and the questions and the queries and the doubts of the students. And therefore the pedagogy has to be changed. It has to be innovative. Bring more interaction, bring some stories part, make it more interesting for small children. You can't tell them, you can't ask them to read the lessons just like that. Aham Sanskritam Padhami, Aham Shalam Gachami, Maya Phalam Khadyate, this is passive voice, Aham Phalam Khadami is active voice. We can't teach like that. There have to be certain poems, certain exercises, certain flashcards. Some nowadays, with PPT presentation and all that, it has become, technology has helped us in so various methods, and we are really benefiting out of that. So this is what we really want to do. And for that, we must have a broadened outlook. Without making much hue and cry about the secularism, I would rather say liberalism and magnanimity of heart, the open-mindedness in education system is more necessary for being innovative. Right? For example, I give you one example. Satyabhama, Krishna's wife, was a great warrior for herself, and she was his charioteer when he killed Narakasura. Okay. Now, why I am quoting Satyabhama here? She not only, had the reins of the horses in her hand, but she exactly knew the minds of the hundreds of captive women in the prison of Narakasura. Now, if after killing Narakasura, all these hundreds and thousands, they are stated to be 16,000 girls. Shodasha Sahasradikaha. And therefore Krishna, people make mockery, Oh, he is the husband of 16,008 because he had duly wedded 8 wives and these 16,000 girls. But it was Satyabhama who exactly knew the minds of these girls. Once they are released from the clutches now, if they go open in the society, will the society accept them as they are? Because they were in the prison of Narakasura for so long? Who will accept them? Not even their parents. This we are facing even now. Even now in the 21st century, if a girl, she cheated and deceived by her so-called lover and husband, and if she comes back to her parents' house, her parents say, you married on your own wish, you didn't consult us, it is your life, you live the way you like. Even now it happens, especially in the inter-religious marriages. This is seen even now. In that context, Satyabhama's that move is very, very innovative. That takes her to a different height altogether, right? So even today when you see that the exploited women have no social status, in that situation, in the Dwapara Yuga, she took that step. This really heightens her feminine power, her Shakti. Shakti is feminine. Once Vivekananda said, energy doesn't have energy, or the highest Brahman, it doesn't have a linga, right? Nastri, na puman, na kumara, utava kumari dikatyate. But energy is feminine. Shakti is feminine. Therefore, take Prakriti, take Maya, it is feminine. It is Vivekananda. And therefore, the woman power, this is just an example of Satyabhama, how novel she was in interpreting the mind or reading the mind psychologically of those 16,000 girls. So these are the innovative approaches. In Sanskrit especially, I can say that Katapayadi approach, this has been a very neglected one, and only the mathematicians have taken resort to this. But this is incredible cultural history and new idea in our Jnana Parampara, in Indian knowledge system. And this has evolved out of creativity of the ancient seers. So this is an alpha syllabic numeric system for maths, for music, for phonetics, for anything. And the oldest available evidence of the use of Katapayadi, this was very innovative in those days as well. So that is done by Grahacharani Bandhana of Haridatta in 683 AD CE, okay, Common Era. And it has been used in the Laghu Bhaskariya Vivarana written by Shankaranarayana in 869, okay. So this was an innovative approach. And to tell you shortly what is Katapayadi, you place 1 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 0, 10 is 0. You place the number horizontally and go on writing the Varnamala, the Varnas, Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga, Cha, Cha, Ja, Jha, Ya. Below that, this comes 10, right? The sparsha are 25. So 10 makes the first line. The second line, Ta, Tha, Da, Dhana, Ta, Tha, Da, Dhana, that makes the second line complete. The third line is Pa, Pha, Ba, Bha, Ma. And then you stop, come to the fourth line, Ya, Ra, La, Va, Sha, Sha, Sa, Ha. So Ha comes on under 8, number 8. And in that manner, if you teach, this will be something very, very encouraging for the students. For example, Rama, if you want to write Rama in Katapayadi, now Ra is on number 2, Ya, Ra, La, Va, 1, 2, 3, 4, Ya, Ra. So it is number 2. And Ma is Pa, Pha, Ba, Bha, Ma, that is number 5, okay. So this becomes 25. But Ankanam Vamato Gatihi, right? Ankanam Vamato Gatihi, and therefore it would be written as 52. So this is very, very interesting. Another interesting thing I can tell you about, the manuscriptology and how they write their, the date, the scribe writes the date in a very cryptic manner. And if that could be taught to the students, tell them to make their own, what the dates or their birth dates or some important dates in their life in that cryptic language, that will teach them the Indian culture as well as a new method. Now, similarly, I used to say, 24 names of Vishnu in Sandhya Vandana. There are 24 popular names. And these are these names evolve out of Chaturbhuja Mahavishnu, and in 4 hands he is having Shankha, Chakra, Gada and Padma. So you make the permutations and combinations of that, how many different forms could be evolved, and they are 4 into 3 into 2 into 1 permutation combination, that comes to 24. And Vishnu Sahasranama has, these different names. And in the Hoysala architecture, how architecture brings up the Indian knowledge system here. Hoysala architecture in Karnataka, Halebeed, etc. It has different vigrahas with the names of these. And this is a very interesting study, So we can have multiple ways of teaching new methods. So this is a permutation combination theory. If you teach them with the vigrahas or with the 24 names of Vishnu, like that you can have Ashtabhuja Devi, her Ayudhas and different names, 8 into 7 into 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, right? So these are the different methodologies which we can adopt. Then the stories for value education from Ramayana, Mahabharata, the do's and don'ts should be taught in this manner. And what is IKS, I need not tell you. These are if you say the Chaturdasha Vidyasthana, then the 4 Vedas, Rig, Yajus, Sama, Atharva, and for 6 Vedangas. Mandukya Upanishad calls it Apara Vidya. Dve Vidye Veditavye Paracha Aparacha. And Apara is Rig, Yajus, Sama, Atharvanaha, and then Shiksha, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chanda, Jyotishaha. And Athapara Yaya Tadaksharam Adigamyate. But then in the corpus of this Indian knowledge systems, we don't have Apara Vidya, Para Vidya as a specific, it comes as Vedanta in the Vedic portions, right? And then along with that, there are 4 Upangas. So the Itihasa Purana, Dharma Shastra, Mimamsa and Nyaya Vistara, that makes it 14, 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas, 4 Upangas. You add 4 Upavedas to that, it becomes 18 Ashtadasha Vidyasthanani. Plus, there are Agama Granthas. I refer to Agama Granthas especially for the Murti Nirmana. Shaiva Agamas are 28 in number. Shakta Agamas are 77. And the largest number is Vaishnava Agama, 215. So many Agama Granthas are there. Plus, there are so many sciences like Ganita, like Rasayana, like Jiva Shastra, Mriga Pakshi Shastra. Sanskrit department has published a book. It held a seminar when I was there, and it has published the book on Mriga Pakshi Shastra, right? So there are so many sciences like this, and I can multiply the examples, but then for fear of exceeding the time, I am not going to do that. But there are like so many examples, and Yatha Shikha Mayuranam Ganitam Tastadvat Murdhani Vartate. You know, as the plumage is for the Mayura, so is Ganita in all the Vedangas. So that is what the story goes, the dictum goes. So interesting, you know, the learning could be joyful, the learning could be meaningful, and that is what we aim at NEP. NEP makes it more interesting, more lovable, more charming, and more inviting. I hope the Sanskrit department, in this, after completing this 60 years now, I wish the Sanskrit department to complete the 75 years, and then we may not be there, but there will be hordes of future generations to celebrate this. And I wish all the best to all the activities of the Sanskrit department in this year, the Diamond Jubilee year, and the years to come ahead. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Dhanyavadaha.